Hello, welcome to Women in Action. I am doing a back-to-back podcast and I'm getting out of my comfort zone. I am interviewing someone amazing today. So we have the privilege on Women in Action to be talking to Dr. Janet Little. And Janet's a remarkable family medicine doctor, coach, wife, mother, and we'll be talking about balancing all those roles in this podcast. But she has navigated a highly stressful situation, and she's known as the doctor for doctors. So we'll be looking at how we can look at that sort of like that broken healthcare system, which we have here in the UK, and I'm sure we have right across the world, where our professionals are either broken, burnt out, overwhelmed. We're going to look at her story. Her story is a testament to the power of compassion, resilience, and the pursuit for a healthier healthcare system. So welcome, Dr. Janet. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Bev, for having me. And you're getting me out of my comfort zone by going live as well. So thank you. Thank you.
Okay, right. So we're going to be talking about from brokenness to resilience. And I want to just dive in here now and think about that pivotal moment when you realised the critical need for supporting healthcare providers and their well-being on all tiers of the system. What was that like when you realised that?
I realized it when it happened to me, and I did not feel like I had the support to get me there. So you've given me a little bit of an introduction of being a family medicine doctor and a trauma-informed resilience coach. But the thing is that my life hasn't always been that way. As you mentioned, the healthcare system, it was bustling. It is still bustling, and it's busting. And I found myself in a toxic work environment as a physician leader, and grappling with the relentless demands, putting out fire after fire. That emotional toll began to weigh heavily on me. And so, as I was struggling to cope with the stress and the pain and what turned into burnout, I started resorting to unhealthy habits. There was a time where a glass of wine turned into half a bottle of wine in the evening, just as a means to escape the chaos that was surrounding me. And I numbed those emotions, hoping that it would alleviate my agony. But I soon realized that I was perpetuating the damage with my mind, my body, and my spirit. And you see, we have this tendency to mask our pain behind different vices, whether that's food, whether that's alcohol, busyness, doing more work, thinking that if we work harder that the work will get easier. No, that's not the case. Or even isolating ourselves in an attempt to suppress how we feel. So has there ever been a time, whether yourself or our audience, where we found ourselves overwhelmed? That's really the word that I could come up with, overwhelmed. And we're trying to tuck those little feelings and stuff those feelings inside so that we could keep going and hopefully magically hope that those emotions will go away.
Yeah, and so I can really relate to that because, I've been a speech therapist for like over 30 years. I've had to deal with huge caseloads before I decided to set up my own private practice. And it's just so much of I guess it's like chaos really, and you just feel totally out of depth. Even if you've got loads of experience, you just feel overwhelmed thinking, how do I juggle these huge caseloads and the demands of each individual? Because you want to give the best, but you just feel that, you're just having to paint everyone with the same brush in a way,
Right.
because you just don't have time to deal with those individual cases in an individual way.
Exactly.
But, you know, I'm fascinated to know now that you've gone from being, I take it, are you still practicing as a family doctor?
I am, and
Oh,
I'm
okay.
practicing in what is bringing peace for me.
Yeah.
So
So what does that look like?
I still see patients. As a matter of fact, I work with our veteran system here in the States, and I get to do it on my own terms. Now it's not a leadership position, and I'm okay with that. It's not making as much money, and I'm okay with that because I have inner peace. And you cannot put a price tag on having peace of mind. And what really changed, what really pivoted for me was I several years ago I had a picture of my son standing next to me. He was
Mhm.
probably like in kindergarten or first grade. And the picture itself, I was there in the picture, but it was just a shell of a woman. And I realized at that point when I saw that picture that my spirit was not there, and I was not there for my son. So I had to make a unwavering commitment. I had to make a decision. Was I going to continue in this path, or was I going to rise out from that darkness that I felt and reclaim my life?
So it's interesting that you talk about a picture. Do you feel that, because I know I'm a Christian and I know you are a Christian too, do you feel that that was a picture given to you by God, and what was the significance of it, or part has God played in your career and in the decisions that you've made, to go from being a full-time doctor to doing your life coaching?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My faith has always played a role in what I do, but I think going through that experience, as much as I fought it, it was interesting because as I look back over my training and my career path and even my personal development path, um, the God was there the entire time. I recall one incident where I was my third year of residency, my final year of residency, and I walked out of a patient's room, and I could hear it clear as day that there was something that said, "This is not it for you." And it scared me. It absolutely scared me because I was like, I'm just starting out in my career, and you're telling me that being a doctor practicing clinical medicine is not it for me. There's still something else. I just got here, and I have a whole lot of bills to pay for my student loans that I had not started paying on. So that voice scared me, and I suppressed it for many years. I refused to listen to it, and then as my experience started to unfold with the leadership position and being in a toxic work environment, it became um, it became I became more aware of that voice and started listening a lot closer. And so, what happened when I was placed into that physician leadership role, which I had not expected at the time, I started noticing that I wasn't the only one going through the exhaustion, the sadness, the burnout. And when I started opening up about my own story with my colleagues and with the people who were working directly under me, it just became obvious that there was a bigger calling on my life, and that me being in medicine was just the door that needed to be open so that I could reach that population.
So that's interesting because you are known as the doctor for doctors.
Mm-hmm.
So that title actually really resonates deeply with me because I'm a speech therapist, but I just believe so strongly that there are therapists out there who are getting burnout and who could set up their own private practice, reach people, do the thing that they are passionate about rather than juggling with numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and really share their gifts in a profound way. So could you share like a story of a healthcare provider who's helped, you've helped to transform, and how that experience has kind of affirmed that path for you?
Yeah. So I kind of chuckle at it. I was hired from one of the larger hospital systems here in my area to become their resilience coach. And the whole idea was to help their nurses and their doctors and their staff to deal with burnout. But overall, their goal was to retain their their staff and employees. Um, and I recall not just one, but a couple of the nurses that I worked with that once they became aware of what they were going through and were able to put a name to their emotions, that self-awareness allowed them to then reflect. And then that reflection allowed them to seek out those areas in their life that they wanted to see change. And so, as a result of the work that we did, it wasn't just about goal setting, it wasn't just about putting lipstick on a pig so that they could wake up the next morning and do the same thing. It was about really a mindset shift. And for some of them, that mindset shift meant that they wanted to do something different within their career. And as I said, there were a few that wind up, and one person that I can recall, she uh, quit her nursing leadership position and started her own nursing recruitment.
Oh, okay. So that's amazing. But I'm just thinking, so you're not just a doctor for doctors, it's other health
Yeah,
professionals.
other health professionals, because we're all going through it. So
Yeah.
I've kind of tweaked that doctor for doctors to that I'm a doc with a passion to help a broken healthcare system.
Yeah. So
That
talk to me
healthcare,
about, yeah, talk to me about that broken healthcare system. What does it look like? Because we're here in the UK. I don't know if you know, but in the UK we have a public sector healthcare system, and it's not based on what you earn. It doesn't matter whether you've got a credit card or not. You all have access to an equal service. But I
mhm.
know it's not like that in the US. So tell me a little bit about that broken system.
Well, uh, let's talk about the broken system from the perspective of the healthcare provider.
Hmm.
And it was what I see, what I saw um, in terms of the brokenness is that people were being required to put in more and more effort with fewer and fewer resources. And so that then led to this cycle of we just got to do it, just got to get it done. And people going home to their families feeling sad, overwhelmed, depressed. And let's not even talk about the percentage of doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals who have succumbed to that overwhelm and burnout. So when I talk about a broken healthcare system, it has been probably decades, but I think the 2020 up through what we're dealing with now as a result of COVID-19 really just exploded
Mm,
what we saw of the broken healthcare system.
yeah. So, I mean, I know that you are like a wife, a mother, a healthcare advocate, and that must be really kind of demanding to do all those different roles. But
Yeah.
then you speak to other professionals who are also juggling all those different roles as
Yeah.
well. They could be looking after a loved one, as well as having to do the healthcare side of things.
Hmm.
So, what advice would you give from your or any strategies that you found that are really effective for maintaining your own well-being and in the midst of
Mm.
juggling all these different roles?
My top tip would be trust your get up muscle. And that's all about resilience. Um, there was a time where when I realized that I thought I had failed when I made that decision to walk away from corporate medicine. And I grieved that, like something had died within me. My identity as a doctor felt like it was being under attack. But as I learned more and more about myself, I realized that I have an opportunity not only to help facilitate healing in my patients, but I have the opportunity to help facilitate the healing of broken, burned out, overwhelmed healthcare professionals as well. And that's doctoring to me and my spirit. So getting up, being able to trust your get up muscle and knowing that if you fall down, you have the opportunity and the power within you to get up and do it again, but to do it with a new level of awareness.
I love that get up muscle. I've never heard of that phrase before, but yeah, it's true, isn't it? You do have that power within you, but you've got
Mhm.
to feel that you do have that power within you.
Yeah, and that's where my faith came in. My faith in God was challenged during those periods, and it still is. But I have a new awareness, a new level of trust that God is protecting me and God has purposed me for this journey to help others now.
Yeah. So there are individuals that are in my community that have suffered some sort of trauma or depression or, um, life challenges, let's put it
Mhm.
that way. And those those things can sometimes sort of hold us back from actually fulfilling the purpose that God
Yeah.
has got within all of us, really.
Mhm.
So what advice would you give to those women who have gone through those struggles or are still going through those struggles? Think, well, will I ever come out of this? Will I ever be able to fulfill God's purpose for me?
Mhm. I think what's important is too often we feel like we're alone in it. And so we wind up isolating ourselves, not wanting to be a burden on somebody else. And then there's the stigma of seeking help. So, my advice to those who feel like they're alone, know that one, you're not alone. And two, if you're not at a point of feeling like you can seek the counsel of a therapist or a psychologist, getting in with a good trauma informed coach may be that small little stepping stone that you need to start that transformation.
Yeah. And that's something that you offer too as
Yes,
well, because
absolutely.
I know you've got lots of titles actually.
Shameless plug.
Say that again.
I said shameless plug.
Yeah. So what does that mean? Trauma-informed coach.
So as a trauma-informed coach, I understand that it's not just about life coaching. It's much deeper in terms of understanding the what's the word that I'm looking for? Understanding that we've all had some level of little t trauma, those little micro traumas that then build upon itself, that then affects our emotional wellness, which then can affect our physical and our mental wellness. And so that's one of the things I love about what I do as a trauma-informed coach, is because I can now integrate my knowledge as a physician and knowing the impacts that stress has on the body, and really address it from a 360 aspect for someone, and not just put a band-aid on it and say, oh, well, let's set some goals. Well, we may set some goals, but let's dig a little deeper below the surface and get to the root cause of why those emotions are surfacing in the first place.
Yeah. Or even just say, here's a bottle of antidepressants. Go away and take them.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So how can people get to know where you are and what kind of work you do? How can they get in touch with you?
Okay. So first and foremost, I have a website. It is coach.drjanetlittle.com. I am on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find me there. And my tag or my handle, I'm still trying to get used to this social media stuff. But my handle is I am Dr. Jan. Let me see. And my email, if you want to reach out, is info@drjanetlittle.com.
Oh, that's really clear. So I know you've got a freebie that people can get hold of, which is the limiting beliefs assessment.
Yes.
Tell us how. I've actually put it down there. You can see it scrolling across, but people can go to coach.drjanetlittle.com/YFFC opt-in template too. But if they go to my website, mavenbusinesshaven.com/podcast, they'll be able to find the link there as well.
Yes.
So
and that's a really cool assessment. Just to, if you feel like you're stuck in your routines that you're wanting to break free from, this assessment will definitely help.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Women in Action. And I hope that we can talk again.
Absolutely. I would love that.
Okay, so thank you for everyone tuning in live from wherever you've been tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Women in Action. Bye for now.